being disappointed at the young guy coming in to take his job.
State of San Antonio, nice pass, and Adams with the slam. And just like his dad, Westbrook over the top.
After the death of his father, an aging Marine who left behind 17 children with different mothers, Steven Adams dropped out of school, stopped eating, abandoned his dreams, and lived like a ghost in Rotorua. If the legend of New Zealand basketball hadn't appeared just in time, pulling him out of the abyss, his life might have been buried in darkness. Now that frail boy has transformed into a 7-foot giant with hands like steel shovels, capable of lifting Rockets players like sacks of rice, facing Draymond Green's dangerous kicks without flinching. The financial empire he has built is as massive as his physique, with assets reaching hundreds of millions of USD. How could someone who once loitered around blurting out "monkey" at Stephen Curry manage to stand firm and rise to become an undefeated icon in the cutthroat realm of the NBA? This is the story of Steven Adams, the Houston Rockets star. Childhood, the futureless life of Steven Adams. Stephen Funaki Adams was born on July 20, 1993, in the town of Rotorua, a quiet yet wild land in northern New Zealand, where lakes steam and ancient forests still whisper the words of ancestors. He was the youngest of 18 half-siblings. His father, Sid Adams, was a 7-foot, 2.11 meters, tall former British Royal Marine who had come to New Zealand and chosen it as his retirement place. That man lived a free life, loved sports, loved the land, loved people, and had many children. Stephen was the last one. Stephen's mother was a small, unassuming, and quiet Maori woman. While his older siblings had already started their own lives, Stephen grew up in a house without enough blankets for everyone. He used to sleep under the bed, not because they were too poor to have a bed, but because his unusually tall stature from an early age made it difficult for him to squeeze in with anyone else. By the age of 12, Stephen was already over 6 feet 3 inches, 1.90 meters tall, a fact that made him the subject of ridicule at school and often the target of bullies. In 2006, when Stephen was just 13 years old, his father passed away. It was the biggest upheaval of his life. Sid was the only one who kept him in line, strict but always present. When he died, Stephen gave up. He dropped out of school, stopped eating, played video games all day, and wandered around Rotorua like a shadow. People said he was a lost child within his own family because no one had the strength to care for a mischievous, sullen, and rapidly growing youngest sibling. But fate did not close the door. One of Stephen's older brothers contacted Kenny McFadden, a former American basketball player who had stayed in New Zealand to become a community coach. Kenny agreed to meet Stephen, and within minutes of talking to him, he knew that this boy was a rough diamond waiting to be polished. Kenny took Stephen away from Rotorua, moved him to the capital city of Wellington, and enrolled him in Scots College, an expensive private school for the upper class. Sports scholarships covered tuition, while Kenny took care of accommodation, meals, and even his daily schedule. Stephen was not an ideal student. Kenny once recounted that in the early days, he didn't know how to eat breakfast, didn't know how to fold blankets, couldn't concentrate, and didn't even know how to respond when someone called his name. Every morning, Kenny had to bang on his door to wake him up, drag him to the practice court, make him run, make him shoot, and then sit down to teach him the most basic things. Once, Stephen sat stubbornly on a chair until evening just because he lost a free throw shooting drill. He hated losing but hadn't learned how to deal with it. Under Kenny McFadden's guidance, Stephen began to change. From a quiet and aimless boy, he became disciplined, responsible, and had a dream for the first time in his life. He played for the school team, then the New Zealand national youth team. Whenever asked, Stephen never mentioned his NBA dream, not because he didn't want it, but because he was afraid it would vanish if he spoke it aloud. In 2012, Stephen received a scholarship to the University of Pittsburgh in the United States, opening the door directly to the NBA. On the day he left New Zealand, there were no farewell parties, no big meals with friends, only Kenny McFadden standing silently at the airport saying, "Don't let people remember you for your height. Let them remember you because you never give up." And from that moment on, Steven Adams was no longer a lost boy in Rotorua. He had stepped out of the shadow of his late father, out of the darkness under the bed, to reach the biggest stage of his life, the NBA. Career: the unsung protector. In 2013, Steven Adams entered the NBA like a breath of fresh air from New Zealand. Drafted 12th overall by the Oklahoma City Thunder, he appeared at the draft ceremony with long hair, a stoic face, and a thick accent that surprised the entire United States. The media could only talk about his 7-foot height, size 19 shoes, and the powerful handshake with Commissioner David Stern. But Steven didn't come to draw attention. He came to contribute. At OKC, Adams started as a backup to Kendrick Perkins. He didn't score much, but he was always in the right place to grab rebounds, screen for his teammates, and bring the steel spirit that the Thunder needed alongside superstars Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. In the 2013-14 season, he was named to the NBA All-Rookie Second Team, not because of impressive stats, but because of his rock-solid defense. Westbrook called him a walking shield, while Durant said, "He doesn't say much, but standing next to him, I feel secure." Adams improved steadily. He perfected the pick and roll, becoming a launching pad for Westbrook during his MVP season in 2016-17. His tank-like screens, rebounding ability, and relentless spirit earned him the nickname the strongest man in the NBA. During the 2016 playoffs, when Draymond Green deliberately kicked him in a sensitive area, Adams only frowned, got up, and kept playing. No complaining, no theatrics. After nearly a decade of loyalty, in 2020, Adams was traded to the New Orleans Pelicans. Here, the young roster and fast-paced style meant he was no longer the focal point. Although he still played consistently, he wasn't the perfect fit anymore. In 2021, he joined the Memphis Grizzlies, becoming the big brother in Ja Morant's volatile group. Without needing to speak, Adams' gaze and presence commanded respect from the entire team. In 2022, Adams led the NBA in offensive rebounds, a remarkable feat in the modern era of basketball. But in January 2023, a posterior cruciate ligament, PCL injury, forced him to miss the entire 2023-24 season. Many thought his career was over, but the Houston Rockets didn't think so. In 2024, they brought him in to do what he always did: clean up the paint. In October 2024, after nearly 2 years away, Adams returned. In the 2025 playoffs, he scored 17 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, and blocked 3 shots against the Warriors, sending the Texas crowd into a frenzy. No one expected him to still have that kind of power, but for Adams, no one could decide his fate but him. Now Adams is a free agent. Some teams want him, others are doubtful. But whether he chooses to continue or stop, Steven Adams has left his mark in his own way, not needing to score a lot of points, not needing resounding fame, just always moving forward, never backing down. Wealth: the unexpected USD millionaire. If you had to pick an NBA player who became a millionaire without anyone really knowing it, it would have to be Steven Adams. No diamond watches, no Nike collaboration shoes, no flashy Lamborghinis parked outside a mansion. But by 2025, his net worth had reached $168 million, according to Salary Sports statistics, mostly from playing contracts and under-the-radar investments. Throughout his decade-plus in the NBA, Adams signed several large contracts, especially 2 significant ones: a 4-year, $100 million deal with the Thunder, and then a 2-year, $35 million contract with the New Orleans Pelicans. But despite earning among the top defensive centers, Steven's lifestyle is the complete opposite of what people imagine an NBA star to be. He doesn't live in Los Angeles, nor did he buy houses in Miami or New York. Almost no one knows exactly where Steven Adams lives. New Zealand media believes he still keeps a house in Wellington, the place that was his anchor during high school, but Adams himself has never confirmed it. He once said in a brief interview that he likes to be somewhere quiet, where you can only hear the sound of sheep. Steven Adams's most visible asset isn't a house, but a truck. In 2019, he joined number team ROUSH, a custom pickup truck brand in Oklahoma City, with a special edition 2019 ROUSH Super Duty. It's a truck nearly 8 feet tall, with massive tires and a thunderous engine, looking like a military vehicle from afar. He used it to drive to practice for years. No one ever saw him step out of a luxury car, only a large figure in shorts, flip-flops, and a face that never wore sunglasses. Adams once admitted that he doesn't use credit cards, doesn't know designer bags, and if he needs to spend money, he lets his agent handle it. "I just need practice shoes, clean clothes, and enough sleep," he said on an ESPN show. However, behind that unassuming exterior, Steven quietly became a formidable investor. In 2022, he participated in the initial investment round for Nutrition from Water, a biotech startup specializing in developing functional sports drinks. In the same year, he contributed $15 million to Left Foods, a New Zealand startup researching plant-based protein. Both projects relate to health and sustainable development, topics Steven rarely talks about, but always quietly pursues. More importantly, at the end of 2024, Adams appeared on the list of founding investors of Auckland FC, a newly established professional football club in New Zealand. He invested alongside businesswoman Anna Mowbray and billionaire Bill Foley, clearly showing his intention to play a constructive role in his country's sports after retirement. And if you were to ask what the most luxurious thing he ever owned was, perhaps no one would guess. Steven Adams once spent over $50,000 to install an automatic Japanese-style toilet, voice-controlled, heated seat, self-cleaning, in one of his personal apartments, just because he wanted to sit in peace without the sound of flushing interrupting. In a world where everything must be flaunted to be recognized, Steven Adams chooses to let silence be his most distinct asset. And perhaps that's why his true wealth lies not in what can be counted in money, but in the way he lives, unlike anyone else. Marriage. The guy who says no to love. Throughout his decade-plus of battles in the NBA, Steven Adams not only gained fame for his massive physique and tough playing style, but also bewildered the media with a personal life as mysterious as a ghost. No dating scandals, no appearances at events with strangers, not a single intriguing post on social media. Adams, somehow, has created a private world that few basketball stars can maintain in the age of the spotlight. According to reputable sources like Essentially Sports and Sportskeeda, Steven Adams is believed to be in a long-term relationship with Kayla Kiriau, a former New Zealand basketball player born on June 15, 1993. Kayla played basketball at Sheridan College, Canada, and Point Park University, Pennsylvania, USA, where she pursued her passion for basketball while studying. Both grew up in New Zealand, where basketball isn't the most popular sport, but it became the thread connecting them through journeys far from home, professional pressures, and a desire for a simple life. Although not public, their relationship is described as deep, based on understanding and shared values. Kayla rarely appears alongside Adams at NBA events or on social media, but this discretion doesn't raise suspicion. Instead, it highlights the quiet, reserved lifestyle of both individuals. As of 2025, there is no evidence confirming that Steven Adams has married, and he has never spoken about Kayla Kiriau on public platforms. In a world where every moment is scrutinized, their silence seems to be the strongest testament to a lasting relationship. For Adams, who has always refused to flaunt his wealth or chase the limelight, keeping his love life private isn't about hiding. It's a conscious choice. Just like how he stands firm in front of the basket without making noise, just being solid, his love, if it exists, quietly shines in its own way. Scandal, the silent feud with the Golden State Warriors star. Throughout his more than a decade in the NBA, Steven Adams has been known as one of the most steadfast, quiet, and rarely controversial players. He doesn't engage in public disputes, doesn't clap back openly, and has almost never let his emotions show on his weathered face. However, even for someone as calm as he is, in the fierce world of top-level basketball, there are times when silence is no longer enough to keep everything peaceful. In 2016, Steven Adams faced his first media storm when the Oklahoma City Thunder defeated the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Final Series. In a post-game interview, he described the Warriors guards as quick little monkeys, a colloquialism common in New Zealand. But in the United States, the word monkeys carries serious racial connotations. Within hours, the statement spread across headlines, and Adams faced intense criticism. He immediately apologized, clearly explained the cultural context, and didn't make excuses. But it was a first lesson that personal truth isn't always understood the way one intends. During that same series, a series of physical collisions etched his name into fans' memories. Draymond Green, the famously outspoken forward of the Warriors, twice kicked Adams in the groin during contested plays. The image of Adams collapsing on the court, grimacing in pain but not retaliating, became a widely shared moment. Green was subsequently suspended, while Adams remained silent. It wasn't until 2025, during a reunion with the Warriors while playing for the Houston Rockets, that Adams first spoke up. "I got kicked in the nuts twice. I don't think we're friends." Also, in the 2024-25 season, Adams was involved in another controversy when he clashed with center Mason Plumlee during a game between the Rockets and the Suns. Both were ejected after exchanging words and shoving each other under the basket. Ironically, in 2018, Adams was filmed saving Plumlee from a dangerous fall during a rebounding play. The contrast between the two moments, one of protection and one of aggression, was revisited by the media as a cycle of change in a world that never stands still. Not only on the court, but Adams also faced pressure from the fans of his new team. After the Houston Rockets traded 4 second-round picks for him, some fans criticized that he didn't provide equivalent value. They argued that Adams' slow pace and old-school playing style weren't suitable for the modern NBA. But as always, Adams didn't argue back. He just quietly played, practiced, and waited for the opportunity to prove himself with his actions. Achievements. When steadfastness surpasses all expectations. In the world of sports, where numbers and titles are often the standard of success, Steven Adams has chosen a different path. He doesn't have a championship ring, hasn't been an all-star many times, but he possesses something that not everyone can maintain: the absolute respect of his peers, coaches, and the communities he has been a part of. In his very first NBA season, Adams was selected to the all-rookie second team, an early recognition of his solid defense and calm playing style. In 2018, he was nominated for the NBA Sportsmanship Award, a rarely mentioned award, but one of great significance to those who understand true sports culture. In the 2024-25 season, after returning from a serious injury, Adams had a memorable game in the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors, shooting 100% from the field, making at least 15 free throws, recording 3 blocks, and having 0 turnovers, a feat unprecedented in league history. Not only on the court, but Adams is also a soul in the locker room. He was nominated for the NBA Teammate of the Year award in the 2025 season, finishing second to Stephen Curry, an honor that reflects deep recognition from his colleagues. But Steven Adams's greatest achievements are not in the statistics. They are in his homeland, where he always looks back with concrete actions. In 2023, Adams founded the Sports Pathways Trust in New Zealand to create educational and sports opportunities for young people. The organization held a Reach for the Stars charity auction in Auckland, raising over 167,000 New Zealand dollars for community programs. He also organized a series of free basketball camps across the country, helping thousands of rural children experience basketball in a structured way for the first time. Not stopping there, Adams sponsors scholarships at Scots College, where he once studied, to help underprivileged students have the opportunity to train and study in a high-quality environment. In 2016, when he returned to Auckland, Adams partnered with Miss World New Zealand contestant Christy Toy to build a basketball court at Ronald McDonald House, a facility for children with cancer and their families. For him, it wasn't an obligation, but a way to give back what he had received in life. Even while playing for the Oklahoma City Thunder, Adams was actively involved in local community activities. He played bingo with the elderly, read books to children at elementary schools, and appeared at numerous fundraising events without ever inviting reporters. That's how he expressed himself, quietly, without needing recognition, but always present. Future. The final decision rests in whose hands? After the turbulent 2024-25 season, Steven Adams stands at a major crossroads in his career. After nearly 2 years sidelined due to a posterior cruciate ligament injury, he returned strong in the Houston Rockets jersey. Not only did he contribute to the team reaching the playoffs after a 5-year absence, but Adams also set an unprecedented milestone in NBA history, achieving 100% field goal percentage, making over 15 free throws, recording 3 blocks, and having 0 turnovers in a single game. A testament that true value lies not in age, but in how one returns after a setback. However, with his contract expiring in the summer of 2025, Steven Adams becomes an unrestricted free agent, and his future in Houston remains officially unconfirmed. Rockets general manager Rafael Stone has publicly expressed his desire to keep him, calling him an ideal fit for the team's culture. "Steven is the player and the person we hoped for when we made the trade," Stone said. "He's an important part of the group, but this is a two-way street. He has to want to stay as well. All indications are that he does." For his part, Adams hasn't said much, but a short post on social media showed his connection. "Houston, thank you. The energy, passion, and unwavering support you brought to the arena this year was incredible. I hope we represented this city with pride and resilience." Currently, many other teams are also interested in Adams, ambitious teams lacking an experienced center, especially one who can be a role model in the locker room. At 31 years old, Steven Adams no longer has to prove anything to anyone, but he is weighing 2 options: continuing with a Houston team that is building a new identity, or starting a new chapter elsewhere, where he can continue to have a profound impact with his calm demeanor and team spirit. From a child who once slept under a bed in Rotorua to a cornerstone figure in the NBA, from fierce clashes with Draymond Green to sleepless nights organizing basketball camps for New Zealand kids, Steven Adams has walked across every stage without needing the spotlight. As the NBA grows increasingly loud, Adams chooses to exist as a gatekeeper, not drawing attention, but always present when it matters. And precisely because he doesn't compete for the spotlight, what he leaves behind is even more enduring. A type of strength that doesn't need to be flaunted, a form of resilience that doesn't need to shout. There will come a time when he leaves the court, but the image of that tall man, with long hair, a quiet demeanor, and a heart always turned towards his community, will linger for a very long time. We are not responsible if you misunderstand or misapply this content. Please consider, verify, and selectively absorb the information. Enjoyed it? Give it a like, comment, share, or subscribe to the channel. That's the fuel to encourage us to tell more top-notch stories about other NBA superstars.